for two. Kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two. Sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this. Multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the Armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo! This is the Armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo!
What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 226 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert, and you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. We are, of course, presented by the Going for Two Live Podcast Network, and we're live every Wednesday and Friday night on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Syndicated in all major podcast networks and streaming the Going for Two app for iOS and Android. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. Ryan, what's up, man?
Dude, living the dream. It's football season, dude. In the top 100 in the Scott Fishbowl at 26. Really pumped about that.
Good shit. Yeah, good shit. I think we've got 3 people from Going for Two in the top 100. I think we have one in the top 5, actually. I think Eric's actually in the top 5.
Yeah, Fence Barbecue's third.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, crazy.
Good stuff. All right, our next guest is making his first appearance on this show, but he's actually been on this show every episode since February. He's actually the one that you hear in our intro, rapping our intro music. Mr. Gabe Geering, how you doing, man?
Hey, kickers are extra. I give them the boot.
What's up, man?
I always feel so bad. Like when I was actually writing an intro before I came on, and I'm like, man, I just go in at like anyone. Like I'm just immediately on their side. Like I hate kickers, and like this other one, I'm like I'm all about analytics, and I hate the film. So it's funny when I just like immediately jump to a side just to like and put the energy on it. Like I believe in it too. So
good stuff, man.
I'm going for 2 tonight. I'm doing good, fellas. How y'all doing?
Not too bad, man.
Great,
Not
man.
too bad. So you co-host the Open Bar podcast. Is that still a thing that y'all do? I think y'all used to do it every Wednesday night, I believe, or every Tuesday night.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's fair to throw the days around like that because it's been that long since we've actually been consistent with the pod. But yeah, Tuesdays, 9:30 Eastern ish with the homie J Mike. We'll be back. We're on a need to know basis, basically. And but we'll be back. We'll be popping. But yeah. Good
stuff. So give my listeners real quick a little bit of rundown of what you do in the fantasy space.
I guess at this point I just kind of write fantasy football intros and try to make some people laugh, I suppose. I don't know if the content can be taken too seriously these days, but I try. I guess that's why I'm here of sorts, to try and do that a little bit. But I'm around, putting things out in Open Bar. I do actually like statistics, but I like to also watch the football too. So I feel like I'm in between a little bit. I'm a hybrid of sorts. I'm FF hybrid.
All right, good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right, so we got a pretty jam-packed show, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it.
And now, the 5 101s.
All right, 5 101s. If you don't know how this works, we got 5 categories, not football or fantasy related. You give us your 101 for that category. And since you're the Open Bar podcast, I figured I'd kick it off here with your 101 adult beverage.
This was so tough for me. Like I couldn't believe that you were hitting me with this. But I mean the OG, like I feel basic for doing this. It's like the pumpkin spice latte of cocktails. I feel like, but I got to go with the old fashioned. It's just a classic.
Nice.
You can't go wrong with it, but you got to do it the right way too. I mean, I do it with the sugar cube, I muddle that, with the Angostura bitters and the you got to have the maraschino cherry. I'm not too picky on the bourbon necessarily, but the orange spritz, I mean, you just got to do it right.
Nice.
I feel like not enough people do it right.
Good stuff. I think, Ryan, wasn't that the drink of choice last week too? I think that old fashioned, was either that one or the one before that.
No, it was last week.
It was last week.
See,
Yeah,
pumpkin spice latte. I'm telling you, it's too basic.
Yeah.
I literally just started drinking that old fashions like fairly consistently.
I've honestly never had one. I may have to try one because this is the second time in a row. I know my father-in-law, he drinks them whenever we go out, so maybe I'll have to get into it. I'm a beer guy. I drink mostly beer wherever I go. I don't do too much of the liquor.
The old fashions go down quick, that's for sure.
Yeah, they do.
All right, let's get to the next one here. So obviously you wrapped our intro music here, so I figured next one I'd give you is your 101 hip hop artist.
Another like horrible question. All right, guys, like this is too hard. All right, as
narrow
far
it down.
as a rapper goes, I mean, like, sure, I might have an all-time, but I feel like it changes. Like my top 5 changes from time to time. Like I might like I've liked J. Cole for a very long time. I probably put J. Cole and Tyler the Creator up there this year, but like Kendrick just dropped a verse for Family Ties, and like he's been the 101. I feel like the last 10 years, but it's tough. So, but I feel like Nas is definitely up there for me.
Nice.
But it's hard to say it. Put my name on a 101. I guess now is J. Cole.
J. Cole. Yeah, I love J. Cole. I'm a old school hip hop head, and J. Cole was one of the ones that kind of a throwback. He has the same sort of lyrical style as some of the older guys, so that's why I like J. Cole. I'm not into a lot of the other hip hop artists this day and age. I've gotten a little too old for it, but J. Cole is one that I still listen to. So good choice there. All right, so we're coming up on the holiday season. So what is your 101 holiday?
The ones that I get off from school. So I guess all of them.
Nice.
No, it's cool to kick it with family. I always think Thanksgiving is a little unique. We get football on Thanksgiving too. That's always cool. So. And we usually end up getting the entire week off for Thanksgiving, and that's always. And I feel like coming back now from the last like 2 Thanksgivings, maybe hopefully getting back to something that we normally enjoy. So, looking forward to this Thanksgiving a little bit more.
Yeah, I kind of agree there. I think that's my 101 as well. I mean, you got food, you got football, you got family, you got the 3 Fs.
Yep.
So can't go wrong with that one. That's for sure. I think Christmas just becomes so commercialized and it's stressful because you got to I have nieces and nephews and my daughter, and having to come up with all the money to pay for presents and everything becomes more stressful than anything else. But Thanksgiving, it's all about getting some good food and just relaxing and watching football. So that's definitely my 101 as well. All right, your 101 pet peeve, and that could be anything in life.
People.
I say that often while I'm driving too. I'm like talking to my 16-month-old kid in the back, like, I'm so sick of people, bro. But no, that's just like road rage talking. But on it, I could put up a list, just being a teacher in general. But the one thing that I'm not like upset about it, but I would just kind of joke with the kids. We have calculators in the class, right? And they take a calculator out. They see that it's low battery or that it won't turn on because the batteries are dead. And they take the calculator and they put it back where the next kid is going to get it and do the same thing. So I always ask, because I'm always watching them, and so I'm outright like, hey, so do you think that the next kid that's grabbing the calculator is going to magically be able to turn that on? Like, do they have the power? And they just they like think about it for a second, and it strikes, and they're like, oh man. And they still don't know what to do with it though. They're like, what do I do with the calculator then?
I'd get in trouble at my house for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like currently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of there's a commercial that I don't even know what the commercial was for, but the guy goes into the fridge and takes out a carton of milk and drinks it, spits it out, writes bad on the milk, and then puts it back in the fridge. That's what it kind of reminds me of.
Yep.
All right. One last one here. Man crush. Someone that, that you just think it's whether you think it's cool, whatever it's just a man crush. Could be a football player, could be a movie star.
Oh man, well that really makes it wide. I was just gonna go on FF Twitter and say J Mike, my co-host, but I love Jonathan Taylor too. I love Jake Gyllenhaal. Like where does it stop? So those are 3 101s for you.
All right, good stuff. We'll take that. We'll take 3. All right, let's go ahead and get into the fantasy stuff.
News and notes from around the league.
News and notes, as always, is brought to you by the Dynasty Trade Calculator. Everybody hates bad trade offers, right? No one wants to be that guy. Never make a bad offer again with the Dynasty Trade Calculator. Visit goingfor2.com/DTC to sign up for $15 a year. That's right. Go to goingfor2.com DTC and get the best calculator for only $15 a year. Stop guessing, start calculating. So the first one I wanted to talk about here is we're going to talk about just the fantasy side of things, because we can talk about the morals of this and what's going to happen in the NFL, but I want to just concentrate mainly on the fantasy side of things, and that's the Urban Meyer situation. Ryan, I want to go to you first on this one, because I know you're a Urban Meyer hater. You've hated on him from day one pretty much. What is your thought on the situation with the fantasy side of things? Where do you think this affects the team?
I mean, it affects everything right now because everything's in flux. While he's there is players who don't like the coaches, outside media buzz, all this going on this team that's already struggling, and it's terrible for everybody. I mean, we're going to see volume down of James Robinson, and we're going to see Laviska Shenault get his, but long term, man, we need Trevor Lawrence to have a serious situation, and with Urban Meyer there, that's not really possible. The issue is we don't know who the next coach is. If he gets fired, it could be – I don't think it would be worse than Urban Meyer, but there's a possibility it's not great. It stunts development for another year for Trevor Lawrence before he's really somebody I want major pieces in fantasy.
Yeah, I think I'd agree there, too, for those of you that spent the 101 on your rookie picks for Dynasty. Having Urban Meyer in the situation doesn't look good. What about you, Gabe? What are your thoughts here on this whole mess in Jacksonville?
Yeah, shout out my co-host again, J Mike. I mean, we're oddly, randomly Jaguars fans, so we're from a fandom of sorts standpoint. Like we mostly care just about players, but we're fans of sorts, and we've never been about the Urban situation. Like we've just been waiting for him to depart. So we think it's bad for the team. Think it's bad for fantasy. Just like you said about Trevor, like I've been thinking about all the rookie quarterback landing spots, and like Fields and Lawrence just ended up kind of having some of the worst landing spots, I think, and it's really just going to slow down their progress. And the whole James Robinson, Carlos Hyde thing in the first 2 weeks, it's like, what are you doing, dude? And now, with Shenault too, like we'll get to him later, but man, it's an entire mess. And I think it should be a discussion of like, will he get fired first, or will he be let go, will he leave first? Because I think that tells you a lot about the structure of the team and the philosophy of where the Jaguars want to go to.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if y'all saw this, but I just got right before I got on the show, there was a video of the Jaguars team doing like a little huddle at the end of the practice. And then they break the huddle by saying grind, because it was sort of like I was like,
that's great.
That's just not a good look. I mean,
as a Jags fan, I'm going to ask 2 kind of not as much fancy questions. Is there anybody being chatted about as his replacement if he would go? Like or do you have a preferred for it?
Yeah, is there someone out there that Gabe that you like wanted before Urban Meyer got hired? Is someone that you were hoping that would end up there?
I mean, I'd imagine there'd just be the interim for this year, but if we're talking next year, I think it'd be cool if Joe Brady came over. You always talk about Eric Bieniemy. Bieniemy.
Yeah, it's a hard word to say.
I know that one always messes me up, but either one of those two, and I've already heard kind of like whispers. Not heard whisper. I haven't heard anything. I'm on Twitter, but
that's whispers.
Joe Brady, I thought maybe he might make an exit earlier than the Panthers would like.
I don't know, man. It's looking real nice for him right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
OCs, they always dip though. They dip quick, man. Once they have a nice year or two in an offense.
That's true.
Yep, that is true. They want their shot to be the head guy.
Yep.
Other thing with it, like it's not really a question. It's kind of a statement popped in the head. How you mentioned him and Fields, like their surrounding casts aren't bad. Like it's real. Both teams show us how much the coach matters for obviously real football and just as much for fantasy. Because everybody as consensus kind of knew this is bad. We just didn't know how bad it could get. But it's connecting the dots because they're both things we had no confidence that the coach might matter more than the cast.
Yeah.
Because it's not like it's that great of a situation on the Jets offense, but Zach Wilson's playing well at it, and he's not getting the living shit kicked out of him.
Yeah, that's a good call.
This system matters for these guys. And 2 years of inconsistency, like we saw Baker, slows them down.
Yep, agreed 100%. All right, let's move to something else here. Let's go to the Eagles here and the situation with the running back. So Miles Sanders, if you drafted him, you're not very happy with him right about now, or I guess you're not happy with the Eagles because they're not giving him the ball enough. And he's kind of in a timeshare now with Kenneth Gainwell. I think it's about a 60-40 split right now. Ryan, what are you doing here if you're a Miles Sanders owner? Are you looking to sell, or are you just pretty much stuck with him at this point?
I think you're stuck with him. And hopefully, and if you have both of them, it kind of makes it worse. Just because you're questioning it all the time. I think with their roles they're playing, we can kind of guess who's in a better situation from a week-to-week basis if you have both. Because if it's a game where they can have the lead, you're probably going to see more Sanders running the ball. What if they're playing from behind? Gainwell had 7 targets last week.
Yep. And
the week before. So if it's a game with a heavy passing situation and it's a shootout, I feel actually pretty comfortable with him. I'd be more confident in him in those situations than Sanders in the opposite. But I don't think you can sell Sanders now. And he's also really hard to bench because you spent that draft capital.
Yeah, that's true. And it is weird that they kind of don't give Sanders the PPR work, because we saw last year, I mean, he's not a bad PPR back. I don't know what to do.
No, not at all.
So I'm not really sure what's going on there. Any thoughts on the situation here, Gabe, about with Sanders and Gainwell? Any insight into why you think this is happening this way?
I think Sanders has kind of always been in that situation. I remember several games in the past couple of years where he'd have 70-75% split, but I don't think that they trust him. Not necessarily trust, but just want to provide longevity for him for this long season, and I don't think you can do that with an 80%. You're not Derrick Henry. Like, no one is that godly. So you need that Gainwell or whatever, and Gainwell's playing great too. And as far as like game scripts go, they've been playing from behind in a couple of these games, and looking at their schedule, I mean, it gets a little bit easier at times, but there's still some games where they're going to be from behind. So again, with that, like 60-40 is probably about right of what you want. And I mean, sure, you could sell, but like you're selling for like hoping that something comes up, or you're gonna have to do some sort of package to take a risk somewhere. So yeah, it's tough, especially to draft capital. That could have been your RB1.
Yeah,
I hope not. But.
Yeah, I'm sure that he was probably drafted as at least an RB1. If not, if you went back-to-back running backs, maybe you got him as an RB2. But yeah, I think right now he's not returning value whatsoever. Now, I do agree that the 60-40 split right now is sort of commonplace in the NFL. It's just his efficiency has been really down, too. He's not doing what he was doing in the last couple of years with the efficiency. I think there was times last year where he broke off like an 80-yard run or a 70-yard run, and you'd be okay with that. He's not hitting those this year. We thought that with Hurts there that it would help the running game, and so far it hasn't really done that. And I think some of it, too, is coaching. I mean, what was that game a few weeks ago that they had 3 carries or 2 carries for the whole game? Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, I don't even know how you go about doing that. And
then when he was asked about it, he said, like, the numbers don't tell the whole story.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
1, 2, 3, dude.
It's pretty much black and white. He didn't get the carries. I don't know how you don't run.
It's not even a 60-40 split, because you have Jalen Hurts running the ball, too.
Fair.
And he has 3 less carries than Sanders.
That's a good point. All right, let's stick with the running backs here and move to another running back that's going to be missing a few weeks. David Montgomery obviously came out, was having a huge game. I think he had 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards already. And then he gets hurt. He's out for 4 to 5 weeks. I'll go to you first on this one, Gabe. Obviously, the immediate backup there is Williams, but there's also a rookie there, Khalil Herbert. Do you think these guys are just plug and play? Do you think you just put Williams in there as a Montgomery replacement, or do you think that it's going to be a little bit more of a committee approach there?
I don't mind Damian Williams. Even when he was with the committee in Montgomery, he was playing pretty well and breaking off some good runs. And, he had that thigh injury, but he seems like he's going to be okay and good to go. And I don't mind Herbert either. Like, they kind of got a good little 3 set of backs there in Chicago. And the offensive line hasn't been great in general for Fields, but I feel like the run game has been actually positive for the Bears. So I wouldn't say it's going to be Montgomery levels, but I don't hate it. I don't hate whatever people spent on Fab for Damian Williams if he was available.
Yeah, I agree there. And I think as a dynasty player too, I want to see what Herbert has. I'd love to see him get a couple carries there just to see what he can do. What are your thoughts, Ryan, on the situation with the Bears?
Yeah, I think it's kind of wheels up for Damian Williams, like he said. He does. When you're looking for those handcuff backs, kind of like we've talked in the offseason, you look for guys who have similar skill sets. Big Bruce back, 220 pounds. He does all the things Montgomery does. Obviously not 100% of it, but he has a lot of the same similarities and doesn't change the offense much. And Justin Fields being back there helps him. With the running quarterback effect, I think he'll be a pretty good fantasy asset. Like, he could be RB2 this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think if he gets enough games in him, I think he can definitely be the quote unquote Mike Davis of last year that took over for a big name running back and basically just if you had him, he carried you. So I think I agree there 100%. As long as he can stay healthy, I think he'll be a good RB2 for you for the rest of the season. All right, let's go to a quarterback. Trey Lance picked up the game last week with the injury to Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo still is unofficially ruled out this week, but if I had to guess, I would say he was going to be out because they do have a bye week in week 6, so they give him that extra week to rest up. But if you have Trey Lance on your bench, Ryan, and you have, let's say, a middle-of-the-road quarterback, are you putting Trey Lance into your starting lineup?
Not if I don't have to. Like, it's matchup depending who the other quarterback is, but I don't fully trust him yet. I know the rushing upside's there, which is great. But they're still kind of got to have to protect him because there's not anything behind him, and they don't want to get their new quarterback killed. And they run a fairly conservative offense with Jimmy G in there with their run game. I don't think they're really going to let Trey Lance sling it. So I'm not real comfortable starting him yet until I see what that offense looks like. But I'm more on the lower side of it.
Fair enough. What about you, Gabe?
I kind of might not mind it this week, just with that Arizona matchup. Like, it could just be a shootout, and Lance could throw 4 picks, but still run for like 140 yards and throw up 25 points or something. Like, that's like, he might not even have to throw the ball that much. Like, I do think that, and they weren't scheming the game last week with Lance. They were obviously going with Jimmy G allegedly, so that calf injury showed up, and then
it's convenient.
And then once they start playing with Trey Lance, though, I think it'll be a little bit different. So, I mean, I guess it would depend, but I don't necessarily mind it with the upside. Like, if I'm looking rough with Miles Sanders, as my RB2, and maybe Robert Woods or something, feeling uncomfortable with my wide receiver 3, and I want to swing on something, like, I don't mind going for Trey Lance there.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Gabe, because he came in the game last week, and you mentioned they didn't scheme up anything for him because he was supposed to be the starter that week, and I think he still had like 20 fantasy points. Now, granted, he had that blown coverage to Deebo Samuel that kind of helped him a little bit, but I do think he played well enough that I think with the rushing upside, if they scheme him up to get some good, some easy plays, I do think that he is startable. Now, you're not going to put him over any of your studs there, but if you have a guy like a Ryan Tannehill who's been struggling, so far this year, I'd have no problem putting Trey Lance over Ryan Tannehill this week. Like you mentioned, too, against Arizona, it's going to potentially be a shootout. They will have to pass the ball to keep up with the Arizona offense. So I think Trey Lance is startable, depending on who you have as your quarterback. So I think I would plug him in there, especially in DFS. I actually think he might be the best DFS player this week on DraftKings because he's cheap, and I think he has a ton of upside. All right, we're running against the clock on the news and notes. Let me hit one more here, and since you're the Jaguars fan, we'll go to the DJ Shark being done for the season, and who do you think gets the biggest benefit out of that? We'll go to you first, Gabe.
Well, I think it really revolves around the Urban thing still, because they're just not doing what they need for Chenault. Like, he had a far better year last year just with a whatever sort of coaching staff. And like, once Urban's gone, I feel like Chenault could, I'm saying like when Urban's gone, I don't know if he's going to be gone, but I would think at this point,
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's so bad. But I still like Chenault, and I think that he was kind of left for dead a bit, and he's probably propelled just naturally because of the shark injury. But Marvin Jones, I don't know what happened last week either, but it's tough to say. Honestly, I would say Chenault, if anything, just because I think there's more of a ceiling there, but I guess for quote unquote safety, it would be Marvin Jones. Dynasty wise though, I mean, Shark is gone after this year. I don't think that Jaguars would take him back, and so Chenault might be wheels up as far as dynasty. You might want to go and get him now.
That's a good call there. That's a good call. And Ryan, I'm going to go to you on the other one here since it's your team. Rashad Bateman was almost going to get active this past week. There's the potential he might be active for the week 5. How excited are you to see him? I'm sure you're not starting him right away, but how excited are you to see him in that offense?
Absurdly excited. Like, not fun. I'm so excited about him starting because he's a legit wide receiver 1 skill set, and I'm excited to see it there, especially with the way Hollywood Brown's been playing, who is the sneakiest wide receiver 13 ever now.
Yeah.
But it could free up everything in that offense, which last week he threw 37 times, which we haven't seen in the way teams have been stacked in the box. Baltimore's felt comfortable passing, and adding him in there over a James Prochet, who was awesome this week. I'm not going to talk bad on Prochet because he's a friend of the show.
Right.
But, like, there's a big jump having that first-round talent Bateman in there. What that does for everybody.
Yeah, I think Prochet is one of those stories that we like because, you know, we scouted him and we loved him going into
he made all these one-handed catches in college. And
it was ridiculous. But, yeah, he's not going to be that stud that Bateman can be. So I agree. I think Bateman, I'm excited.
All this week.
Yeah, I took Bateman in pretty much every dynasty league that I could get him. I even took him over Waddle and Smith as well. So I think that Bateman's going to be the real deal. Hopefully we'll see it this week. All right, that wraps up the news and notes.
Breakout or fake out?
All right, the way breakout or fake out works, I'm going to give you a player that's, you know, had a pretty good season so far, and I want you to tell me if he's a breakout, he'll continue this sort of trend, or if he's a fake out, he's just going to revert back to what he was in the past. And for the sake of time, we'll just kind of flip-flop between the players that I have listed there. And I'll go to you first, Gabe, on that first one, Mr. Cordero Patterson. With his crazy game last week. I think he's RB3 or RB4 in PPR right now, which is ridiculous. Breakout or fake out on Cordero Patterson?
This is like in Big Daddy when they're spelling hippopotamus, and you know they're giving words to the kid to spell, and I feel like you gave me the easy ones, and Ryan's gonna sit over there and get the hippopotamus, and I mean, I feel like everybody's just regurgitating this take with Cordero Patterson. Like, it's insane. Like, mostly just because he's on so few snaps. Like, he's doing this on like 35% of the snaps. Like, it's just an insane, efficient run that he's having. So the obvious thing is like, yeah, it's a fake out. Like, try and sell high. I mean, I've been getting offers from everyone. I have him in a dynasty league. I'm trying to dish him. Like, just, yeah, of course. It's the obvious move. I mean, could he continue at this pace? Probably, absolutely not. But,
yeah.
I mean, they seem to at least like him, and he seems to be involved, and he seems to be what we kind of were thinking he'd be like seven years ago.
Yeah.
But it's certainly a fake out, but I'm not sure what the selling point is in a trade, and if it's worth even selling him or just riding it out.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one for sure. I mean, how often do we see an age 30 breakout player that wasn't doing a whole lot before that? I mean, it almost never happens. I can't think of any.
Mike Davis.
Yeah, Mike Davis, exactly. Who happens to be the guy who's in front of him on that same team? So that's a good call. All right, Ryan, we're going to go to you. On Thursday night, we had a coming out party of a tight end, Mr. C.J. Uzomah. He led all tight ends in week 4 in points with 2 touchdowns. Breakout or fake out on Uzomah?
Fake out. Like, come on, we know what the Bengals offense is. They're missing T. Higgins. He's their big body guy in the red zone when they're not just force-feeding Jamar Chase. And Uzama has played more because of it. He's had a bigger role because of that. And it's not going to last. Like, those targets where he got 6 targets and caught 5 for 2 touchdowns, it's not going to hold up. That's not how that offense was. They shut down Jamar Chase. They made a concerted effort. They did a really good job on it. And he was just wide the F open.
Yeah, wide the F open.
We always talk about these tight end games that are one game and done.
Yep.
That's what this is. Like, another 29-year-old breakout on a guy who's been known as a blocking tight end. Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you there as well. He was definitely a game winner for some DFS guys on Thursday night if you played him, because he definitely crushed it. But if you could sell him, if you own him for whatever reason in Dynasty or in redraft, and you could sell him now. I agree. I don't think it's gonna hold. Higgins will be back this week. That offense runs through 3 receivers. I don't think a tight end really fits into that offense. So sell. Sticking with the tight ends, though, we're going to go to Mr. Dawson Knox. He's tight end 6 currently. And we've kind of been hoping he'd break out for the last couple of years. Hasn't happened. We finally gave up on him, and now all of a sudden he's having a little bit of a breakout season. Breakout or fake out for Dawson Knox, Gabe?
Knocks, knocking on heaven's door. Ooh, there's all knock. I'm with it, man. I'm with it. I'm ready. The first week or two was like, okay, typical like Dawson Knox, 1 or 2 targets, whatever. And then they started running more routes in the last couple of weeks, and he started getting more targets and not just like the weird dump offs like that CJ Uzama got. Like it was legit, and they were good routes, and he's being targeted. The only issue I kind of have is Diggs hasn't really had a breakout yet. And so I'm curious kind of who that number 2 is if and when Diggs becomes elite again. And Sanders has been playing great. Beasley's been involved as well. I guess Gabe Davis is always back there too. But I feel like it's always going to be like 2 guys that have a week for Buffalo, assuming that high octane volume continues with Josh Allen. But I still like Knox from the tight end perspective. It's always a wasteland. So
yeah, exactly.
Why not swing?
Yeah, 100% agree with that one as well. I think he's definitely a breakout. A breakout in the sense that he'll be probably a tight end 1 the rest of the season, because it doesn't take much to be a tight end 1. After those first couple of guys, as long as you can catch a few touchdowns here and there, I think you're going to be a tight end 1. And Knox is in one of the most high-powered offenses, at least they were last year. And if he's targeted even 5 or 6 times, there's definitely a chance he can fall into the end zone a couple times. So I agree. I think he's definitely a breakout as well. We're going to skip number 4. We talked about him already. So we're going to go to the quarterback here, Ryan. Mr. Sam Darnold, currently sitting at QB 5. Breakout or fake out on Sam Darnold?
So I think it's a breakout, man. Not as quarterback 5 or being that high, like for the rest of the season, but him finishing as a QB 1. I think it's a possible thing. He had the rushing touchdowns that really added to it and jumped him up. That's 14 points this early in the season, dropped him up like 8 spots.
That's true. Which
is about where I'm more comfortable with him. But this offense is good. This team's good right now. He has weapons that help him succeed. Christian McCaffrey, once he's back and healthy, is a huge up for that. DJ Moore is playing like we've all wanted DJ Moore too. Now that he has somebody who can throw him the ball. Terrace Marshall said, Robbie Anderson, has he been unlocked yet? This is a good offense. I feel pretty comfortable with him most weeks starting him, just because of how solid he is and escaping Adam Gase showed what it did to him on a team that supports him with the right weapons.
Yeah, exactly. How much has that narrative been used that you escape Adam Gase and all of a sudden you're an all-pro player all of a sudden. I think I'm with you. I think I'm with you on Darnold not being QB5, but I do think he's if he's not a QB1, he's a very high-end QB2. He's in that QB 13, 14 range probably. And like you mentioned, he does have a good offense. He's got good pieces around him. And they're running him too, so they're getting those touchdowns with his legs. So I agree. I think Darnold's going to continue this pace, and he's definitely a breakout for me. Let's look at a wide receiver, Gabe. This is a guy that I've loved since day one. I drafted him in my rookie drafts in the 3rd round, and I've been waiting for him to break out. Thought this would be the year. First few games, I was disappointed. Then he kind of came out of nowhere last year with the 5 for 125 yards, Mr. Darnell Mooney. breakout or fake out for Darnell Mooney?
I mean, he certainly faked me out this week. I was ready to put him into a lineup as a last flex. I think it was in SFB actually, and the groin thing kind of freaked me out, and he seems like it's still sort of kind of lingering. I don't know. I don't feel like it's like not enough information yet, Jeff. Sorry. Like I don't.
you gotta pick one.
He's just out there. He's out there playing football right now. But he's pretty great. And I mean, I feel better with Fields out there. I feel better with Laser calling the plays, but allegedly there's an elite wide receiver on the other side of the field that's like the wide receiver 50 or something right now. So that's kind of a bummer. But honestly, I don't think with Fields there, with Laser, with the running, whatever it is, like I don't even know if there's going to be a top 24 wide receiver on that offense by the end of the year. But I mean, we know we got Mooney like way at the end of drafts. So like and maybe probably dropped to waivers and got to pick him back up. So he's certainly going to outperform where he was drafted, certainly if he was on waivers. So I'm with that, but I don't know if it's necessarily a breakout.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. I think he'll be one of those guys that are boom or bust to have those weeks like he had this last week with being 5 for 125. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with Allen Robinson, who will be a free agent at the end of the year, and what happens with him. If he ends up leaving and Mooney stays, and maybe he becomes that wide receiver 1 that we all wanted him to be. But I think for this year, I think he's probably just going to fake out for me. All right, let's do 2 more. We'll do one more quarterback, Ryan. We'll go to Mr. Taylor Heineke, who I've taken some heat on my DFS show on Friday because I picked Heineke the last 2 weeks as my quarterback, and it's paid off pretty well. He's QB 8 since taking over in week 2. So Heineke, breakout or fake out?
Yes. Like, I don't know. He's played games where he should have good games. Like you projected him as a breakout because he was playing Atlanta, who lets anybody who wants to throw for 300 yards do it. He played well against Buffalo because he was playing from behind in garbage time because they put up 43. It's just those matchups while the defense isn't playing. Since the defense has played this year, he's had good matchups.
Yeah.
If they get their shit together, it could go just crumbling down. If they have to start playing more serious or taking it, they don't have to throw the ball as much. It's better off for them. So I'm very apprehensive about it. If I can find somebody who believes in him, I'm getting them. But he's a streaming quarterback at best for me. QB8, nah.
Yeah, definitely not QB8. I do think in the terms of where you probably didn't draft him. So in terms of the fact you get him off of waiver wires, I think you're definitely going to get your value back for him. I do think that this defense is going to be bad all year, and he's going to be relied upon to throw a ton. The real question is what happens when Fitz comes back. If they're continuing to win, I think that Heineke stays in there. But if they're losing, even if he's putting up big numbers, I think they go back to Fitz. So that's what I'd be worried about if I was a Heineke owner.
Either way, Terry McLaurin's good.
Yeah, McLaurin's is quarterback proof.
That's what really matters.
Yeah, he's quarterback proof. I agree 100%. All right, last one here. We'll end on another tight end. Dalton Schultz, currently sitting at tight end 4 in PPR leagues. Breakout or fake out, Gabe?
I feel like Knox and Schultz have been talked about so like evenly, like similarly that they're kind of that like those tight ends that end up being the tight end 1, like the late round tight end, whatever, that you pick up off of waivers and that you can throw in. And I kind of feel about the same that I do with Knox. I mean, these guys are running routes now. And I am a little concerned with just like the volume in general with Dallas. Like they're really not throwing a lot because they know that they're going to lose if they throw too much, and they want to have a good balance with running. And so, like, there's elite pass catchers there between, Cooper, obviously, and Lamb, and Gallup's coming back in a couple weeks. And I almost kind of feel like Schultz had the success that he had because of Gallup's injury. And so I'm worried when Gallup comes back, but I still feel like he's going to be involved enough to kind of have, like, certainly not tight end 4, but he could end up being a tight end 1 for you. Tight end 1 for you, like on certain matchups and things. And I like him. I think it's a breakout of sorts, and he's outperforming Jarwin, which is the other thing. Like Jarwin's they're running a lot of 12 personnel, and Jarwin's in there, but he's not really running routes. He's just kind of blocking. So it's a lot of Dalton Schultz. Yeah,
I agree 100%. And same with Knox it's a high-powered offense that they're looking to score a lot of points. So I think that he, just being there in that offense and having a good quarterback behind there, that he can definitely fall into the end zone a couple of times and be a good tight end for you.
You mentioned one thing with him that really I think out of that offense that really stands out to help him. How you mentioned how they're becoming more balanced and running the ball more. That keeps the three receiver sets off.
Yeah.
That gets him in the game instead of Gallup.
That's a good point.
And as long as they're running the ball like that, I feel comfortable with them. So I'm in with you guys.
Yep, definitely a good point. All right, so I announced on last Friday's DFS show that we have a new sponsor. I don't have the promo code yet. We're still working on it, but we are now being sponsored by BetMGM. So as soon as I get that promo code and everything, I'll get that out there. They're still working on it. So no commercial break tonight. Hopefully by next week, I'll have that commercial for you all for BetMGM and get you that promo code. Let's go ahead and jump into the prop bets.
Going for Two Live and PlayPickup.com present the Pickup Props of the Week.
All right, if you're new to the show, this is the way this works. PlayPickup.com gives us these widgets that we can insert into our articles that allow you to vote on the prop bet, over, under, and then if you win, you actually win points, and those points can then be traded in for free stuff. So it's pretty fun. It's free. It's illegal in all 50 states. So if you just, any article that you go to, you'll see these widgets installed into our article. I put out one every week for this show. It's 5 prop bets that we do. Make sure you put your phone number in there to verify that your pick, so they can give you the points to the correct account. But we're going to go ahead and do a couple here tonight. The first one I have on here is over under how many yards will TJ Hawkinson have versus the Vikings in week 5. The over under set at 54.5. Ryan, what do you think here?
I am taking the over for my boy TJ Hawkinson. I think we saw a little bit of a blip game off of how well he's been playing. Minnesota's scoring the ball scoring a lot, so they should be in a little bit of a shootout. And Hawkinson's still their best receiver.
Yep, I think I'm with you in there. Gabe, what are your thoughts? Over under 54.5 on Hawkinson.
I'd probably take the over, but I feel like it's a trap. The Vikings have been playing decent defense, and it seems like they want Hawkinson because Hawkinson's a great blocker too. And Dan Campbell, they just kind of like the shove it down your throat type of football with running the ball. And so if they go with that early and often with the Vikings, then Hawkinson might not get as many targets as we want. But I'd take the over.
Yeah, I'm going over as well on this one. 54.5 is a pretty low number, I think, for Hawkinson. I think he's the number one option in that offense, and I do think that he can get over that 54.5. And the field agrees. 80% are going over on Hawkinson. So if you have him in your league, obviously you're probably starting him anyway. But he's also a pretty good DFS play this week. All right, next one we got. How many catches will Robert Woods have versus the Seahawks on Thursday Night Football, which is tomorrow night? Over under 4.5. Gabe, I'll go to you first.
Over, baby. That's all I want to say.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. But Ryan, what about you? You going over?
No, I'm being a negative Nancy on it. The targets haven't been there. He's had 6 targets the last 2 weeks. I know coach speak and all that. I want to be wrong. I just want to be wrong on this. But I'm just not feeling it.
Right.
Yeah, I almost changed it because you got me excited the way you said over. Legit, I almost changed my answer. I was like, no, he's getting me more excited. Just going to let me down.
Yeah, and I think Woods will be brought up later in the show, too, when we get to our Devil's Advocate segment as well. So he'll have some more to say about him, hopefully. The field agree. Well, actually, the field's split 50-50 right now. So it's a pretty much of a toss-up right now, 50-50. I think I'm going to go over as well. I think Woods eventually has to get going. I mean, he's been a great receiver for so long. I think they got to get him involved in there. So 5 catches isn't that difficult to get. I think he can get to it tomorrow night. All right, this one's an interesting one because this is combined touchdowns here. Combined passing touchdowns for Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen in Week 5. The combined total is set at 7.5. So, Ryan, I'll go to you first there. Combined passing touchdown, that's the key. You can get some rushing touchdowns from Josh Allen. They won't count. It's got to be passing touchdowns here.
Yeah, I'm under. Like, that's a lot of touchdowns. That's literally 4 touchdowns each. And Josh Allen might get some rushing. Clyde Edmonds-Helaire could steal one. That's a lot of scoring to count up for 2 guys. I'm going under. I'm playing safe.
What about you, Gabe? Oh, we're under 7.5 touchdowns for Mahomes and Allen.
I'm under as well. I pretty much echo entirely what Ryan said, and Darrell Williams just got a touchdown at the goal line last week as well. So, I mean, yeah, I'm not playing with that.
Yep, I'm with y'all. I'm going under as well, and the field agrees 75-25 that going under on that one, so I agree 100%. We got 2 more here. Over under receiving yards for Deebo Samuel versus the Cardinals. He's been killing it so far this year. The over under is set at 99.5. Gabe, what are you going here?
I cannot believe how high that is. When I saw this one, I was like,
Yeah.
that is so difficult.
Yes.
And especially with the Lance thing, and like, you can look at last week's box score, but like y'all said earlier, I mean, it was just the broken coverage that really got Samuel like another ball out game. So I kind of want to say under, but I just wouldn't be surprised if it went over. And when is Kittle gonna break out?
Right.
When is Ayuk gonna finally play?
Yeah, the doghouse.
So I don't know. I'm gonna say under.
All right, Ryan, I think I know what you're going to say because you usually give the same spiel about this 100-yard mark here. So what are your thoughts here, over, under?
Yeah, you're right. And did you make this bet? Like, did you pick this number yourself?
I did not, no. As a Niners fan, I did not make this bet myself, but
It's crazy high.
I would be tempted to take the over just because I bet the odds are really
Homer.
good. Because I'm what?
A homer?
Yeah, because I'm a homer, yeah. But
Yeah.
I would think the odds would be pretty good to take the over. Betting the under on this one, I think, is the easy route there. So I think if you wanted to put a nice little bet on the over, I think I'd take that over. I do think it'll be a high-scoring game, but if I'm playing it safe, I'm going under for sure.
So what should you pick?
I picked
We have
under.
a bet?
I took the
Huh?
under. I took the under.
This is for the Avatar bet this year, right?
Yeah, this is the Avatar bet.
Okay.
So I took the under on this one. I'm not trying to lose to you this week. I think we're still tied. I got to look at last week's results, but I think we're still tied. So this week could make or break it. All right, last one here. Kareem Hunt versus Nick Chubb. We're comparing 2 running backs from the same team. So Kareem Hunt's receiving yards versus Nick Chubb's rushing yards. Who has more? Gabe, I'll go to you. So Hunt receiving yards or Chubb's rushing yards?
That's a dirty one too. I kind of Nick Chubb's just been grinding though. If it was a total yards thing, I might go Hunt there just because he's been on a run too, and he's more involved in the passing game as of late. But I'd say Chubb rushing.
Chubb rushing.
Bubba love a Chubb.
What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, that's weird. I don't like it. If it was like Kareem Hunt's rushing totals are been receiving totals have been 28 to 74 17. There's nothing in those numbers. I'm like, oh, you're gonna be put up more receiving yards than one of the best running backs in the league. Hard pass.
Yep, I'm with y'all too. I'm going Chubb as well. I think Chubb's been disappointing in fantasy because he hasn't scored yet, or he hasn't scored a lot yet since week 1. But he's still getting that crazy workload. I think he's getting like 22, 23 carries a game. So it's a matter of time before he actually breaks a big game here. So I think I'm going with Chubb as well.
And the Chargers' run defense is bad.
Not good.
Like it could just be a rushing show all the way up.
Chubb's number 2 in the league in rushing yards.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But
I think he has the touchdowns from week 1. I think is all he has.
the 3 touchdowns in that week 1. But I don't understand why we hate him. He's not that far behind Derrick. Yeah, he's pretty far behind Derrick Henry. That's a lot. It's 5'10", 360, 4'3".
It's not fair.
But it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
Compared to everybody else in the league. It's just the scores aren't there, we panic.
Yep, especially because he's only playing half the snaps. If you look at the snap total, he's only playing 50% of the snaps, and he's still doing what he's doing. So
It's fine.
Yep.
That's a 60-40 thing or 50-50, but their 50-50 is they run more than a lot of teams.
Yep.
And their backup running back looks so good, it kind of takes away from it.
Yep, agreed.
Let's play Devil's Advocate.
All right, Devil's Advocates. We asked Gabe before the show to give us 3 guys that he's higher on than the field for Week 5, and Ryan's job is to then tear those guys down. So the first one on this list here is a bit controversial. I like it, though. Mr. Daniel Jones. Gabe, tell us why you like him so much this week.
First of all, does Ryan have like a name for like the Devil's Advocate thing? Does he have like a special name he can like call himself? Like
we haven't yet, but we can come up with one.
No, but I like that. I really like that idea.
Yeah, like the fear foss.
The fear foss. I like it.
Jeff, make me a drop.
Yeah, that's it right there. Yep, I'm getting it. Fear foss.
There you go.
That's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. All right. So Daniel Jones. I mean, dude's been balling. Aside from like the only time I've actually started him this year was against Atlanta, and I was like, yes, here we go. And then it kind of fell short, basically because he didn't throw a touchdown. Everything else was kind of there. He's pretty much like a lock for 20 points with the rushing that he's been doing, and he's going against Dallas, who has been just great against the pass this year. So I mean, he pretty much has to throw 1 touchdown to get you into those high-end QB1 numbers, and even 2 will get you into that like top 5 type of stuff. So I think he's a pretty easy streamer, and because I was looking at his ranking, he's down at 16. Like I think he's easily a QB1 this week.
All right. Ryan, tear down Daniel Jones.
This one was actually much, much tougher than I expected it to be. Because his rushing upside's been fantastic, and this is a cake matchup. The one thing that are 2 reasons that I would argue it: Dallas has been getting turnovers, and those picks, depending on your score, really does hurt. And the Giants, I know we've been a little bit down on Saquon this year, but those rushing attempts and total touches are just ticking up every week. We saw that slow start. We had 10 carries and 13, and now 16 and 13, like plus 6 targets to go with his 13 carries. He's getting much more of an uptick, and if he really gets rolling against Dallas, it might really slow down this Daniel Jones rushing and some of his production. But if we see him up to 30 touches, that affects everybody.
Yeah. Yep. I agree 100%. Yeah, so Jones is someone that you put into your lineup and you're kind of nervous, but I do think that he can be a decent streamer this week for sure. So I think I'm on the side with Gabe there. I think I like Jones this week, and he's going to be a popular DFS play.
I am too. But
Daniel Jones or Trey Lance from before? Daniel Jones, Trey Lance.
Daniel Jones.
It's Trey Lance for me, but I'm a homer. So.
Oh yeah, that wasn't fair. Sorry.
All right, the next one you have here, Gabe, Mr. Chase Edmonds. What are your thoughts on him?
Man, I don't know why you would not want just like any part of this offense. I mean, it's kind of tough with the receivers right now because it's like who's going to blow up. It's like AJ Green's kind of the weird, consistent player right now, but Chase Edmonds has been very consistent, and he is an RB1 right now, and he is getting so many. He has like a 20% target share. Like he's catching the ball plenty just to even have a floor, and he hasn't scored a touchdown. So I mean, if he gets just that, I mean, he's already breaking into that top half of RB1 territory. He's ranked as around the RB 17 right now, and I wouldn't say the matchup is necessarily cake, but it's not that bad either. San Francisco has let up a lot of yards. Sorry, Jeff.
That's all right. I understand completely. We're also very, very injured, too. We got a lot of injuries, so I think that's going to contribute to him having potentially a big game. Ryan, what are your negative thoughts on Chase Edmonds?
Serious question with you guys is Fred Warner still there? Healthy?
Yes. Yeah, he's still there. And he's one of the ones that have stayed healthy. Yep.
I'm glad you said that because that would have derailed my argument. He's one of the big reasons why, because he's one of the elite linebackers in the league. He can cover. He can run with Chase Edmonds. Like, that's why I think he can do that. And this offense is so spread out. We're seeing James Conner get the red zone looks. We're seeing, like you guys mentioned, receivers. Their wide receivers 24, 30, and 30, 31 and 32. Like, they're all so close. everything in this offense is really good, but it's very hit or miss. So I don't have confidence with it, especially with linebackers who can run like that. I think that goes against it a little bit.
All right. And the last one we had here, we kind of talked about a little bit earlier, Mr. Robert Woods, and you went over the 4.5 catches for Robert Woods, Gabe. So why do you like him so much?
I mean, it's like, when is the matchup that allows him to just ball out like he does? I mean, the Cooper Kupp target share is just insane right now, and maybe it keeps that way, and maybe it's just Van Jefferson that's replacing Robert Woods as like the two. I don't think it's like a 1A 1B. I think Kupp is just the one, but we're just hoping for Woods to be a back end wide receiver 2 at this point. And he was ranked at 27 from what I'm seeing, and it's a juicy matchup. The coach speak like, yeah, sure, maybe it's just BS, but hopefully it's something that he wants to get involved in. And I mean, he caught that touchdown and was just like, whatever. He just like threw the ball. So I watched him, like, he's like, whatever. He seemed a little upset or something. So I don't know. I feel like they want to treat him right and get him involved a little bit more. So we'll see. But I don't think he's like lost a step necessarily. He doesn't look bad.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right, so Ryan, you took the under on the catches there, so obviously you already are down on Robert Woods. So what are your thoughts on Robert Woods?
So I love Robert Woods. I love Robert Woods in general. I mean, he's been nothing but good in fantasy. And I know the coach speak is there, and they're talking about it. But there's one name that really overrules him getting volume and everyone else, and that's Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford's going to throw the ball to who he's comfortable throwing to, and he's always been that way. He's consistently had a guy in certain situations, and it's really looking like it's Cooper Kupp. Like, he is just force feeding the ball, and he's comfortable with them. And after that, it's spread the ball with Matt Stafford. That's been his MO for his whole career, and I don't think that changes much. As good as Robert Woods is, I think it's going to be a hit or miss person week to week, and it's not something like I'm comfortable betting on.
To that defense too, I mean, he had Calvin Johnson for a while, so I mean, who wouldn't throw the ball to Calvin Johnson? You know what I mean? But I totally get it because he had a Kenny Galladay, the same thing.
Johnson, there's Kenny Galladay, and then there was Marvin Jones before that,
yep,
and Golden Tate. And these guys got 140 target guys every year, and then everyone else took the back where sometimes he had a red zone threat in there, but Bobby Woods really isn't that.
Yeah,
How dare you?
Yeah, I'm torn on Woods.
And I love Robert Woods. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, no,
I heard to say
it does.
He loves Cooper Kupp. It's weird.
Yeah,
like,
that whole debate in the offseason of which one it would be that Stafford would like. Whoever took Woods, they lost because it's been definitely Cooper Kupp. But I do think that they want to get Woods involved. I think the offense will be better once they got an offense that where both receivers have to be a threat. And then who do you defend? So. We saw last week they took Cooper Kupp out of the game, and then they weren't as good. So I think if they can get Woods involved in that offense, I think it's definitely a plus for the Rams. All right.
They haven't been very creative with him either, like they used to be with the sweeps and the screens and stuff. So maybe he has lost a step, and we just haven't seen that.
Haven't seen it. Yeah, that's a good call because you're right. They usually they find a way to give him the ball usually, and they haven't been able to do that. So that's a good call. All right, so we're getting close to an hour there, so we're going to unfortunately skip the listener questions tonight, and we're going to go right into our final segment.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Gabe, we've had some pretty good ones so far this year, so who is your Forgotten Fantasy Player?
This was hard for me, and the first player that I thought of just like as a homer, or not a homer, I guess, or as a fan, I figured I'd lean on the fan side of things, and I thought of Justin Blackmon. I don't know if that is considered retired. I feel like we're kind of at that point.
if he's not, we forgot him.
Yeah, I think he's certainly forgotten. And I've been in fantasy for 12 years or so. So, I mean, this is kind of in the first few years of me seeing like kind of rookies and players for the first time where I was like, whoa, like he's going to ball out. And that's how I felt about Justin Blackmon. That sure maybe biased being a Jaguars fan, but I got to see him in Denver one year when Peyton was balling out that year, and it was like a 28-point spread on the game. And I was like, what are we doing? Are you kidding me? And the Jaguars even led like for a good portion of that game, like I think through the third quarter. But I mean, Justin Blackmon was just torching the Denver Broncos, and it was a lot of just slants and whatnot. But he ended up having like, I don't know, I should have looked up this for the show, but it was like huge reception, like 12, 13, 14 receptions for like $150 or something, and just went absolutely bonkers. So that always kind of stuck with me, and I always wished, for him to have a better NFL career than what happened for him, but is what it is. So
he went 5th overall.
Yeah,
I knew he was high. I couldn't remember what number it was. Like, it's mind blowing.
Yep.
Yeah. So
as far as those top receivers going high, like Corey Davis just a few years ago didn't really come through until that last season with the Titans, and a little bit, I suppose, with the Jets this year. But I mean, I feel like Blackmon like kind of hit the ground running a bit. So
yeah, I just looked it up. So it was in his second season where he only played like 4 or 5 games that game against Denver. He had 20 targets, 14 receptions, and 190 yards. I mean, that's ridiculous right there. Whew.
Oh, it was so fun. I love Denver. They're great. They're a great crowd, but they're like, "Are you serious?" Like the Jaguars, and Blackmon just kept
killing them.
It was great.
I love it. That's awesome. All right, yeah, great one. That's a great one. I don't think we've had Blackmon yet, and that's a really good one because he had a very short career. But yeah, definitely.
I have a terrible memory, but I remember these.
Yeah.
Yeah, the moment it comes up,
Yep.
you see them those
like
threads on Twitter.
Yeah. I feel like Peyton Hillis is our most used one.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
we get a bunch of those. Yep, we get a bunch of Peyton Hillis. All right, man, that wraps the podcast up. First of all, thank you for coming on, Gabe. We'll go around the room really quick. Give us your Twitter handle one more time and tell us, what you're working on. Gabe, we'll go to you first, man.
I am the FF Man Bun. People are always hating because they never see my bun on camera, but trust.
It's there.
Oh.
It's there. Okay, I feel like that's always my signature sign off, like just an awkward like.
Give us the profile.
You should get the black and white profile as like on your Twitter page.
That's true. I should do that. Yeah, I've always had I always thought my OG when I played football in middle school, I always looked so dorky in that photo, so I put it up. But anyway, FF Man Bun open bar Tuesdays 9:30 Eastern ish. Intros, obviously. Shout out to y'all for allowing me to just be on this show now, but also, like y'all said, on the show every week because I get to be an intro, and that's amazing. I love that. Love being a part of things like that. So go follow my man J Mike too at J Mike Check. That's my guy, my dude.
Definitely, he's a good follow.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Ryan. What you got going on?
Same as normal. Find me on Twitter, Foss534. Find me here Wednesday nights. Find me over at the NFL Draft Bible. Our podcast drops Wednesday mornings. And that's really about it.
Good stuff. As always, guys, you can follow me at Jeff Lambert77. You can follow the entire podcast network at Going for Two Live. We have a show literally every night. We've got the Dynasty Gamut coming up tomorrow. They pregame the Thursday night game. We got 2 shows on Friday. We have a show on Saturday night now too. We have a show Sunday morning. So make sure you go follow Going for Two Live on Twitter. For Gabe, for Ryan, I'm Jeff. We will see you next week.